Nice and toasty in the hot tent, ladies and gentlemen. Figured to get the best effect, I would just point the camera at the wood stove. Make you feel like you're in here with me. Coffee first, hello. I'm gonna wait for the room to fill up a little bit more. Miss Sharon, hello. We got a few more people in here. I'm not expecting a big group tonight. I still got a relatively new channel, guys, but I do appreciate the few of you that are in here with me. I'm probably just gonna keep this to about 45 minutes or so. Again, this is just a hangout. I'm gonna keep the camera pointed at the wood stove the entire time. I can still see the comments. This is what I got going on. Can't keep the door open for too long because it gets smoky in the tent. But I do got my coffee. I got my chewing tobacco. I got a couple notes that I jotted down. This is an open forum, guys. Talk about anything you want. Hang out. I do got a couple things I want to bring up. It was a pretty busy week in the world. We had that speech that Vlad Putin gave. Pretty much ordered every TV station within the country to show this speech. So it's kind of like a State of the Union address, Russia style. So I had a couple takeaways from it. One of them being Putin's pretty much withdrawing. Well, he's not withdrawing. He's suspending from the New START treaty, right? And that's pretty much the last nuclear arms treaty between Russia and the United States, and that came into effect in 1991. And it's got, like, some kind of sunset clause, whatever, and you gotta get together and renew it. Kind of like an insurance policy, except nuclear war style, right? But yeah, pretty much old Vlad over there told Ice Cream Man Joe to cheek it. We're suspending participation in the treaty, meaning that they're going to restart their nuclear weapons program and not allow inspectors on site, and pretty much lay out nuclear weapon batteries throughout the country. Another point to the treaty was, I guess it was a limited amount of nuclear weapons between the United States and Russia. limiting how much we can have in our arsenals between the United States and Russia. So that pretty much went all out the window. You know, so with that said, you know, he gave this speech on Tuesday, and it's quite interesting. I think the big thing that kind of sticks out to me is I get it. You know, we're pretty much fighting a proxy war against Russia, and we're using Ukraine as meat shields to fight this war, along with, you know, all the rest of the NATO countries. And I think we've spent upwards, I think it's getting close to $200 billion. That's what a B, guys, that we've sent over with, you know, between military aid, armaments, weapons, training. You know, we're flying Ukrainian soldiers into the U.S. to train them, you know, so they're using our tactics during firefights. And the thing that interests me, that fascinates me is, you know, Ice Cream Man Joe pretty much said, and these are his words. Don't take it from me, guys. These are his words. Quote, "The idea that we're going to send in offensive equipment and have planes and tanks and trains going in with American pilots and American crews, just understand, that's called World War III." Close quote. Brought to you by Joe Biden. So what's that mean? Are we fighting World War III? I mean, according to Ice Cream Man, we are. Another interesting tidbit that I took away from not only the speech itself, but, you know, articles, several articles that I've dug up and read that surrounds this proxy war. U.S. leaders have suggested that a limited nuclear war might be the one remaining option. I don't know, folks. It sounds to me that these friggin' politicians are playing with our lives. You know, they're gambling with our lives. You know? What are your thoughts? Don't be shy. Yeah, I don't trust our government as far as we can throw them. That's a good point. What happens when it fails? So I'm gonna say something here, and I'm no fan of Vlad by any stretch, but I kind of see his rationale for invading Ukraine. You know, we'll go back to last year, last February at this time when he did invade. The straw that broke the camel's back, guys, was pretty much when Zelensky, that puppet of a president that they have in Ukraine, announced that they were going to pretty much go nuclear. You know, they were going to start building nuclear weapons. And Vlad Putin pretty much told him, listen, you start doing that, we're going to invade. And days after Zelensky made that announcement, old Vlad delivered on his promise. You know? And with that said, you know, he's looking at it as he's got a country that's got nuclear weapons right on his border. And he's looking at that as a threat. You know, so I get it. You know, again, no fan of Vlad Putin or his gang of thugs. But didn't this country at one point kind of go through the same thing, guys? You know, let's go back to 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis. You know, when Russia pretty much did what they did to us, what Ukraine's doing to them. You know, they pretty much parked nukes 90 miles away from our mainland. You know, and it got to the point where the generals on both sides of that conflict or crisis were basically telling each president, JFK, and I think it was Khrushchev, I'm chopping that name to shit, I'll just call it the 1962 Russian president, their generals were telling those guys to press the fucking button. You know, just press the button. All right? So that's how close we came to nuclear Armageddon. You know, and it pretty much got squashed by JFK getting on a phone at the time and having a one-on-one, man-to-man talk with the Russian president and saying, listen, my generals are pretty much telling me to push the button. And the Russian president's response at that time was, hey, my generals are telling me the same thing. So those two basically came up with an agreement and a deal and said, hey, you know what, we're not going to do this. We don't want war. And the Russian president at the time pulled his weapons off of our borders, you know. And Fidel Castro at the time was so pissed off that the Russian president backed out of it that he basically said, I would have rather have had nuclear Armageddon. So there you go. A little bit of history for you. My thoughts on the government's pretty much banning AR-15s. I think little by little, our leaders are chopping away at the Second Amendment. Little by little. making up these laws as they go along. And it's going to get to the point where we're pretty much not going to be allowed to have anything. You know, Ice Cream Man was basically saying, I want to ban all semi-automatic weapons. Well, I got a 9mm pistol. That's a semi-automatic. So by his logic, he's saying that I'm not allowed to have a handgun. So, I mean, that's my thoughts. It's little by little. And before we know it, if we allow this to continue, we're not going to have a Second Amendment, in my opinion. And, you know, that's pretty much our Alamo, you know, so to speak. And that's the Second Amendment, because without that, the government will have a field day on us. Sure is cold. It's about 13 degrees outside. You know, I was going to have a campfire outside and do this live outside, but I decided otherwise for a couple of reasons. The lighting. What's up, Doc Angel? Yeah, the lighting just wasn't good, and I've pretty much been working my ass off all day. I got out here about 9:30 this morning, processed some firewood for a few hours. Took me about 3 hours to process the firewood. Cut down 3 trees. So this wood's gonna go quick. So I decided to bring it inside tonight. It's nice and toasty in here. And I like the effects of the stove for the audience. Makes you guys feel like you're right here with me. Let's put some more wood on this fire, shall we? Again, guys, this is an open forum. We're just hanging out. You know, I said my 2 cents about... I gave my 2 cents on the whole Vlad Putin speech. I guess we'll call this a World War III party. I plan on doing more of campfire talks as the weather warms up. I do have a seasonal campsite, and we will be doing campfire chats around the fire pit this summer. I'm looking forward to that. Doc Angel, what's the temperature up in NH? Yeah, 19. A balmy 19. I got 13 down here. I'm a couple hours away from you. Well, from your state. Cooked up a nice strip steak for supper. Cooked it right on top of the wood stove. Came out pretty good. Had some Brussels sprouts with it. I did bring some soup, but I'll save that for tomorrow for lunch. What's up, Casey? How you doing? Thank you for hanging. Again, just open forum. We're talking about anything and everything, prepping related, survival related, World War III, nuclear Armageddon, EMPs. No, it's all good. I'm going to be on probably for about another 20, 25 minutes or so, and then I'm going to call it a night and probably curl up and watch a movie here on the phone. I worked my ass off today. Got here about 10 o'clock this morning, like I said. Processed firewood for about 3.5 hours. It was a busy day. Finally ate supper around 7 o'clock tonight. Had some coffee. Beaverines. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time. I think they're going to drop an EMP and then they're going to invade Taiwan the next day. Take us right out of the fight. You know? I don't know if they're going to do it by a spy balloon, though. I think they do it from a satellite and out of space. I mean, they got satellites flying overhead right now, over all our heads, 250 miles above the Earth's surface, and that would be good enough for a coast-to-coast blackout. You know, you would the spy balloons are only about 11 miles up in the sky, so I think as far as an EMP goes, launched by a spy balloon, you need a few of them. But from outer space, yeah, they could do it anytime. I think that's the way they would go. I'm actually getting ready to watch a movie after I get off of here. It's called Dragon Day, and it's about the Chinese detonating an EMP over the U.S. So I don't know if anybody's seen it, but I started watching it the other night, and I'm gonna finish it tonight. It's pretty interesting. Dragon Day. It's on Amazon Prime if you guys got that. Yeah, like I said, I got about 20 minutes into it. It was pretty interesting. Who'd be the mayor of the town? He's down for our own little town. I nominate John Davis over at Prepper Nation. We'll make Backwards the sheriff. Yep, I agree. Yeah, we could do that too. I think anybody that wants to come join our town, they would we'd have to put them through a little process of elimination. Kind of like The Walking Dead, they have their 3 questions. We'd have to come up with something like that, to see if these folks are legit or not, see what they bring to the table. That's what I'm saying. 3 questions. What would they be? So how long has everybody been prepping? And what was your wake-up call? What would be a good question? I got a pretty twisted mind, and I guess it comes with the profession I work in. But if you're a fucking child molester, you're going to get your balls cut off, and you're going to get your head put on a spike, and there's going to be a sign that says pedo out in the gates, pretty much saying no child molesters allowed. Yeah, my wake-up call is the pandemic. I'm pretty much new to it. At the time of the pandemic, right when it was kicking off and people were panicking, somebody posted a video on Facebook, and I had Facebook back in those days. I don't have it anymore. And it showed a local grocery store, and people were just going fucking banana sandwich in there. Banana sandwich. Filling up their carts with toilet paper. And it was like kind of like a monkey see, monkey do thing. Everybody had the same shit. And I saw that video. And, at the time, it was pretty scary, because now I'm looking around and I started getting into that fear of missing out mindset myself. And I didn't like that feeling. So I started prepping. And I did a little bit at a time. And I pretty much didn't change up the method on how I do it. I pretty much do a lot of my prepping out of the dollar stores. You know, we got a lot of Dollar Trees around here. And what I'll do is every week when I do my regular grocery shopping, I'll stop by the Dollar Tree and I'll pick up a few things here and there, you know. And then, of course, ammunition, you know, I stock up on that as well. But yeah, mostly it's the dollar stores or the $1.25 store. Get a lot of my over-the-counter meds in there, like cold medicine, allergy medicine, painkillers, like ibuprofen, shit like that. They got everything in there: rice and beans, sugar, honey, instant coffee. And we got Dark Angel, you might know. I don't know if they got Ocean State job lots up in your neck of the woods, but we got some down here. And I do some shopping over there, and I get stuff like first aid kits they sell in there, wool socks, just shit that like not many people think about. Like you just walk in there and it's like they got a whole row of wool socks, and it's like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna stock up on those. Oh, there's first aid kits in here. Yeah, I'm gonna grab a few of those. So it's kind of like a poor man's Walmart. Ocean State job lot. They got them up here in New England, based out of Rhode Island. I know they got some up in Massachusetts. Pretty sure they have a few out in Connecticut. So, but yeah, it was the pandemic. That's what opened my eyes, and I haven't stopped since. You know, I spend what I can afford, obviously, every week. You know, 10, 15 bucks. Sometimes a little more. And it's amazing how, you know, you just do a little bit at a time. Yeah, Dollar Tree. Yeah, I'm there every week, Miss Sharon. It's amazing. Like, you know, everybody says, "Oh, don't go out and spend thousands of dollars right off the rip." You know, you don't have to. If you just do a little bit every week and you're religious about it, you accumulate it. The next thing you know, you got a whole freaking closet full of items. You know, and you didn't even notice, pretty much. So that is the method to my madness. It does. It sure does, cigar. You spend 10, 15 bucks every week. After 6 or 7 months goes by, you look at what you have. Yep, sure does add up. So, like I've said on most of my videos, you know, I live in the city half of the year. And then the other half of the year, I live out in the woods in a trailer at a seasonal campground that's privately owned. And it's not like your regular campground, folks. It's pretty spread out. It's 500 acres. It's a nice spot. I've been camping there for about 17 years. So what I do is whatever I accumulate from the winter time, the winter months out in the city, I'll bring up to my trailer. And what I did is I have a 33-foot trailer, and it's got a bunkhouse in the back. Anybody who's familiar with travel trailers. They come with a bunkhouse. Some of them come with a bunkhouse. Well, I'm just by myself, you know. And what I did was I ripped out the bunk beds and I put shelving in that room. I put a gun locker in there, and I got some plastic bins, and I just fill those fuckers right up with whatever I accumulate through my winter months. And then I start all over again after the season's over. You know, camping season's about 5.5 months long. So I got my preps in 2 spots. You know, during the winter months, I'll concentrate on food, mainly food, first aid equipment. And then during the summer months, what I'll do while I'm up here at camp is I'll stock up on ammo. You know, there's a gun shop in this little town that I camp in. So it's pretty convenient. You know, stop by, again, same thing. I'll stop by there every week after I'm done grocery shopping, and I'll pick up a couple boxes of shotgun shells, you know. So I kind of spread it out. And anybody who watched my, you know, Backwoods live stream when he had me up on there, you know, I will say this, a campground isn't the most ideal place to bug out to, because pretty much as time goes on, you know, the city dwellers are going to get the same idea. They're going to want to get the hell out of the city, and they're going to migrate outwards of the cities to the rural areas, you know. So hence what you see here right now, I'm out in the middle of the forest, pretty far out there, and this is just one of my little campsites that I have. I have several campsites that I have designated for if I do have to leave the campground. You know, the campground is only pretty much going to be a rest stop, guys. That would be like probably my first few days of a break bad event, and pretty much just to assess what's going on. And I think if the biggest threat is people, right? So, I mean, I feel that, you know, it's one of those things where I would know it when the time comes, but hopefully it won't be too late, that I would exit the campground and come out to one of my several spots that I have out here. So with that said, my long-term goal is to actually store food caches out here in the woods at my designated camping spots that I have set up. Obviously, I would have to get containers that I can bury underneath the ground, and I can just keep them filled up. You know, obviously they're going to be filled with food and all the essential items I would need in a break bad situation, and I would keep them in these spots. You know, that's my goal. That's something I'm going to be working on probably this summer when I'm up at the campground. I'll hike out here. You know, my campground is actually hiking distance from where I'm at now. I mean, it's about an hour and a half hike out into the forest, but that's my goal. And this area is pretty vast. I don't really want to upset myself. You know, some people have asked me, hey, what state do you live in, Mad Outdoorsman? I live in New England. And with that said, the forest that abuts the campground stretches into 2 other states. You know, so we're talking a combined like thousands of acres, probably close to 10,000 acres of just raw woodland. You know, and I do my hunting out here, so I'm very familiar with these woods. You know, I can make my way around. There are hiking trails I mean, I'm well off of a hiking trail. There's dirt roads that run through here. I'm pretty far away from a dirt road, so. Yeah, that is my bug out plan in a nutshell. Yeah, it's a lot of work, Dark Angel. I'm in a pretty precarious situation, I mean, I live with my girlfriend, and I have two adult kids, you know, and one of the adult kids lives at home still with my ex-wife, and I still have a pretty good relationship with my ex-wife, and she's her along with my two adult kids are pretty much on board. They got the same. They know what the deal is. They know that if, let's say, an EMP hits and there's no communications and everything goes out, total blackout, right? They know that they're gonna have to hoof it up here. It'll probably take them a few days to get here, but they know to come to the campground, and to wait for me if I'm not already there. So that's the plan. No plan is perfect. I mean, you know how it is. No plan is perfect. There'll be days that I'm driving to work and I'll map out in my head routes where I would, points where I would stop to camp, rather, along the way. Because it would probably take me a few days to get up here if there's an SHTF while I'm in the city. And it's all about timing, especially in the city. It's a matter of hours before all hell breaks loose. So I would have to think about my movement, what time I'm gonna go, if I'm gonna move at night, if I'm gonna move during the day. I gotta think about if martial law is in effect, if there's military checkpoints along the way. There are bridges, and that's the biggest thing that scares me. There are bridges that come in and out of the city where I live. So I would need to think about that. If there's a military checkpoint set up along one of these bridges, what do I do now? Steal a boat and get across from the other side? Or go miles and miles out of my way, to get to the other side, So, again, it's a matter of hours that I would have to make the decision to leave. Like, probably within, 2 to 3 hours, I would have to get the hell out of the city before people really realize and understand what's going on. Because 24 hours into an SHTF, if there's a grid down situation, that's where your looting's going to start. Law enforcement's going to be totally overwhelmed, or what's left of law enforcement. I mean, some of those folks, they're people just like you and I, right? They're going to want to go home to their families and check on their people. So you really can't rely on that, on law enforcement to protect you, and I'm law enforcement, I mean, I'm not a cop, I'm a correctional officer. And I know that for me, I'm not going to go, if I'm at work and there's an SHTF, I'm getting the fuck out of work, and I'm not staying there. So I got to protect mine, My people come first. So there's a lot of scenarios to think about, during a break bad event. What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? Timing. Threats. Yeah. Yeah, so there you go. And how long does the power go out for? I mean, are we talking hours or a few minutes at a time? You know, I've watched some videos and, you know, some of these guys bring up some good points and they say, hey, you know, you want to put yourself in an SHTF and practice? Go shut the circuit breaker off in your house for a few hours. Usually 3 to 6 hours, yeah. So there you go. You know, some people just, they panic, you know. They have no internet. They can't get on that Facebook, you know. They can't play their friggin' whatever games they have on their devices. You know, everybody's got a phone, you know. Everything runs on electronics now. Everybody depends on it, you know, and our society has become complacent because of that. You know, so it's a good idea to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Yeah. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations every once in a while, folks, you know, and it's good practice, you know. I mean, right now I'm in an uncomfortable situation. I mean, yeah, I got a nice fire going. I'm comfortable, I'm warm. But again, it's 13 degrees outside. I had to process my own firewood today. You know, I was pretty much in a survival situation. I hiked in here, I was sweating. When I was chopping wood, I was sweating. You know, the wind's blowing. It felt like -3 at one point, -3 degrees at one point. So, and I knew I needed to get this wood processed for a fire. You know, I stripped some layers off of me, and earlier I had my pants up over here next to the fire. I had my sweatshirt that I'm wearing now. That was soaked. I had that up here next to the fire to dry out, you know. So yeah, it was a pretty uncomfortable situation. And I had a hell of a time getting supper going because we had precipitation in this area the other night, and it was just like last night or something. And what ended up happening was all the tree limbs had icicles on them, you know. So there's a lot of standing dead trees around me. So I was cutting them down earlier, and I was trying to get my supper cooked up on a twig stove, but the twigs that I needed were covered with ice. So I had a hell of a time getting a fire going on my twig stove. So I ended up bringing my food in here and cooking it on a wood stove, you know, and it worked out pretty well. But again, you know, it's like one of those things. You know, you panic, or you stop, you take a deep breath, and you say to yourself, all right, well, how do I improvise here? You know? And what if I didn't have this wood stove? What if I was cold camping, right? Yeah, I would have had a hell of a time. You know, I mean, I do have like, you know, I have fire starting equipment that'll help me get a fire going. You know, I got fire plugs. Basically, they're like cotton balls with chemicals on them. You know, you take a match to it and it goes right up. You know, but even those things were giving me a hard time getting a fire going out there. So, and even this firewood that I processed, I had to put it next to the stove. Once I got a fire going finally, I had to put it next to the stove to dry out. So, it's all about improvising, folks. Yep. Where are we at? We're at 53 minutes. All right, folks. Well, I'm gonna wrap it up and get comfortable. I appreciate the few of you guys that came and hung out tonight for the live. This is my first live. It'll be one of very many to come later on as my channel grows. And we'll be doing more of these. Like I said, this summer when I'm at my campground, I will be doing campfire talk around my fire pit and the campsite. And we'll be doing the same thing. We'll just be hanging out. All right, folks, but I do appreciate you hanging out with me tonight. It means a lot. Keep on prepping. Hope for the best. Expect the worst. And y'all have a great night. Matt Outdoorsman, out.